Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my Cedar Point Recreation Park. Today we are continuing where we left off last time and working on more of the Cedar Point Shores water park. Still a lot left to do over here to get done today. We got kind of the basics down of some of the rides that are going to be open to peeps and some of the pathing and buildings over here, but there's still a lot left to expand on. Got some more restaurants to build, doing some cleanup work on the lazy river. I did mention last time that I wanted to try out using some monorail track for the edge of the lazy river, and I have kind of a first version of that down here. I'll work on it in little bits as we move through the episode here. Definitely not as much room as I would like for this to really work well. You really need to have a very wide river rapids in order for it to fit all of the boundary you want. So it does take up quite a lot of room over here, but I think what we wind up with at the very end of the episode, after I do some more terrain work and foliage work, looks pretty okay. It did also remind me that that's something that I am missing over on Thunder Canyon, so at some point I'll probably have to go back over there and do the same thing as well. Hopefully there's enough room for it. Thunder Canyon is pretty tightly contained, and it's pretty difficult with the monorail track being in the middle of the tile to work really well as a boundary. You really have to have a wide river for it to work. But I'll play around with it and see if I can find something that works pretty well. We'll see. I also have a lot more attractions to build over here, of course, such as the wave pool called Breakwater Bay, which also houses a bunch of little cabanas you can rent out, and just another area to have more pool chairs and everything. It's too bad that we can't have the peeps actually use these pools, because it would be really cool to see some peeps walking around in the wave pool, but oh well. The best we can get is have them walk up to it and look at it and then turn around. But I do have to say, I'm pretty happy with the way things are going over here as far as, working the best we can with the tools that we have. After we get some buildings down and some more just little decorations, it's really helping this place to look really nice. Looks a lot more lived in, a lot more like a part of the park rather than just a bunch of slides out in the middle of nowhere. Even if there aren't a lot of peeps out here to enjoy it. One thing that I think is really helping is the use of the concrete base blocks for the surface. I did mention this last time that using these base blocks instead of the base tarmac path helps it look a lot more like a water park, because it looks more like concrete rather than tarmac. Looks a little bit more realistic, and it doesn't stand out too much either, while still being a little bit different from the tarmac path. It just is a nice little accent compared to the other paths to help make this part of the park kind of stand out as something separate, if that makes any sense. But yeah, similar to last time, just building up a lot of little infrastructure things for these slides. Unfortunately, none of these water slides are going to be open to the public, aside from Storm Surge, which is unfortunate. Like I mentioned a long time ago, it really is impossible to make a good-looking water slide in RCT because the dinghy slides are just so large. Similarly, there are a couple play areas back here as well, kind of similar to the one that we built on Forbidden Frontier a long time ago. I've seen some really good play areas on smaller scale parks. They're not too hard to make either. With the right combination of supports and base blocks and railings, you can make something that looks relatively reasonable. Trying to fit a whole bunch of slides in here is another story, of course, especially given our limited space. The one here at the north side of the water park isn't so bad, but once we get to the other end where things are a little bit more cramped, we have a lot less room. That has been really nice about building this side of the water park. Since it's right next to a parking lot, I don't really care too much about fitting things into a specific size. We can kind of spread things out to make them look as good as we want to, and then we'll just make the parking lot smaller, and that's perfectly fine by me. The less parking lots I have to do later on, the better. Anyway, moving on to the south side of Cedar Point Shores. This is on the other side of Magnum. This area is where I mentioned we were really cramped way back when we built the original placeholder slides back in episode 10 or whenever that was. And fortunately, I was actually able to kind of squeeze things in a little bit closer on this second pass. I had omitted a couple slides the first time around. There are like 5 different sets of slides over here, and 2 of them I didn't think I had room for. But with moving things around a little bit, I was actually able to fit in all 5. Even though a couple of them are pretty scaled back, don't have as many actual slides as they do in real life. There's still, a ride there for it that represents it. So I'm pretty happy about that we're actually able to get in every single ride. A while back, I made up a list of every single attraction in the park, including everything over here in the water park. And now that we've got all the slides in, I think I have literally every single attraction in the park created except for the jet ski rental, which I'm going to do at some point, but I'm saving that for later because it's probably best to do that after we finish sculpting the shoreline. But I'm pretty happy about that. It's really nice to see all of those items checked off on my list finally, after a lot of work. We do have one more lazy river to build over here, if you recall the placeholder that we built. Doing the same thing here for this lazy river that we did with the other one, using a little track ride with some dinghy boats. This one is on a lot smaller of a scale, so I don't really like the way this one looks quite as much. The edge is real jaggy. I don't think there's really enough room to do the monorail track boundary here like we did with the other one. So I'm probably going to get creative with like fences and foliage later at some point to make it look a little bit nicer. A lot of it's covered up by water slides too, so that kind of helps. But that does mean that we do have one more peepable ride in the park, which does mean that we'll get a couple more guests in the park compared to last time. We have been over 6,000 guests in the park for a while now, which is pretty cool. Not many of them are actually making their way over to the water park. I think a lot of them are still stuck back over on the Millennium Midway. Maybe as time goes on, some of them will meander over here, we'll see. But anyway, not a whole lot else to talk about over here. Like before, we're just building some more water slides, adding a couple more buildings, facilities, and things over here. I think there's another restroom and some changing rooms over here. All of which are technically accessible to peeps, but hardly anyone has made their way over here, like I said, so we're not seeing a whole lot of usage of these facilities yet. Probably gonna have to add some more underground path here as well at some point to help peeps navigate in and out of this area. It's a little bit difficult to do that since it goes right next to the exit path. I will figure that out at some point. Anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about today's build. Got a lot done, really happy with the progress we're making so far. We're kind of on the home stretch of things now. This was the last like major area of the park that we needed to build. There's still a bit of outside the park stuff left to do. Everything along the coastline and at the back behind Steel Vengeance left. But no more rides and no more places where peeps are going to be. So we don't have to worry about pathing or rides anymore. Just a couple more buildings and some foliage, and then a whole lot of tidying up. We're getting to the home stretch, which is pretty exciting. Feels like I've been saying that for a while now, but it really feels more like it's true than it has been before. But that's going to do it for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, if you got any comments, questions, or suggestions, please let me know. Thanks for watching.